Smoking is the inhalation of the smoke of burnt tobacco, primarily due to the addiction of nicotine. With each inhalation, smoke brings more than 5,000 chemical substances contacting with our body tissues, causing different kinds of cancer, not limited to lung cancer. Aside from that, it also causes other pulmonary diseases like bronchitis and tuberculosis, as well as increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, blindness, and even tooth loss. Smoking kills up to half of its user, and each year, more than 7 million people died because of smoking, and around 1.2 million died due to second-hand smoke exposure. But how do cigarettes really harm us? Let's have a look at what really happens to our body, particularly to our lungs when we smoke, through this experiment. To do this, we'll be needing a large bottle, cottons, vacuum device, a vacuum tube, as well as cigarettes. Then we cut an opening in the bottle, as well as punch a hole to place the cigarette. We then place the cotton inside the bottle to depict our lungs. The vacuum is then connected to the bottle to emulate the inhalation of the smoke, and the cigarette is placed in the hole as if a cigarette is placed in our mouth. Lastly, the cigarette is then lighted up and smoking occurs.
The constructed model essentially emulates that of a human lung. As you can see, throughout once persistent smoking, a buildup of toxic chemicals begin to form within the organ as symbolized by the cotton. Over time, it is unable to effectively filter these waste from which the tubes which embody perhaps the pulmonary tract is also infected with and by such harmful chemicals, essentially clogging and weakening the capacity of the lung itself. As such, let us now focus on what chemicals we derive from smoking. As shown in the cotton and the contaminated tube, these actually contain chemicals such as nicotine, which is the primarily addicting component of smoking. It induces another chemical called dopamine, which is primarily concerned with boosting one's emotions positively, hence a temporary sense of bliss, which one may then repeatedly seek. Furthermore, carbon monoxide is also seen to be present within the cigarette, which is actually one of the main pollutants that are derived from such an instrument, accompanied by tar, which is described as a thick and viscous substance that is generally described to be carcinogenic. In a medical perspective, the inhalation or even ingestion of this substance damages lungs by blocking bronchioles, which serve as passageways towards the alveoli or the functional units of the lungs. In a report by the Irish Cancer Society, cigarettes contain almost 7,000 chemicals, most of which are poisonous and over 60 carcinogenic. Further adding to what was previously mentioned, cigarettes also contain chemicals such as arsenic, ammonia, acetone, and even toluene, to name a few, all of which are chemicals that are not meant to be ingested in any circumstance possible. As such, as observed in the constructed model, these then are what clogs and damages organs. Indeed, a continuously killing and deteriorating act smoking is. In a more technical manner of discussion, perhaps one particular method that may be utilized in extracting information on the nature of these chemicals would be that of the comprehensive 2D gas chromatography, abbreviated as GC by GC. As such, its method follows that of the utilization of two varying columns of phase selectivity by means of modulation. It can be operated by means of thermal or flow modulation, which is dependent on the nature of their application. As such a technique allows for the separation of volatile compounds. It involves the use of columns which take the form of coils or of material, either glass or stainless steel for packed columns and fused quartz for capillary columns. Essentially, the construction of this device follows that of a cylinder containing either helium or nitrogen as its mobile phase, which is then subjected to a molecular sieve to remove unwanted water vapor and oxygen during testing prior to its entry into the main column and then later on towards the detector. During analysis, it follows a principle whereby chemicals react after a certain amount of time. Hence, by means of matching these waves or columns, one may then be able to identify the contents of the treated sample basing from the peaks generated over the course of the chromatography. To conclude, the proponents were able to effectively provide concrete descriptions and visualizations on the harmful effects of smoking, not only for the physical but also in that of the environmental. As such, While smoking may indeed induce a temporary sense of bliss, the long term effects are definitely not worth the sensation. In this regard, it is then the greatest hopes of the proponents that viewers be made aware of the harm that it poses to every single one of us. It's never too late for us to change, and smoking and live and breathe a better life.